Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, entitled Parikshit Cursed by a Brahmana Boy, text number 48. Tiraskrita vipralabdaha Shapta kshipta hatapi Nasya tat pratikurvanti Tad bhakta prabhavopihi. Translation. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Purport. Rishi Samika also knew that the Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of a devotee. The Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. He thought within himself that if Maharaj Parikshit would counter-curse the boy, he might be saved. But he knew also that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. As such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and His devotees, then the devotees take very strong action. It was a personal affair, and therefore Shamika Rishi knew that the king would not take counteraction. Thus, there was no alternative than to place an appeal to the Lord for the immature boy. It is not that only the Brahmanas are powerful enough to award curses or blessings upon the subordinates. The devotee of the Lord, even though he may not be a Brahmana, is more powerful than a Brahmana. But a powerful devotee never misuses the power for personal benefit. Whatever power the devotee may have is always utilized in service towards the Lord and His devotees only. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So in this chapter we are discussing the incidents of Parikshit out in the forest for hunting, and he felt thirsty by the divine will, and when he was looking for help, and he happened to visit the hermitage of Shamika Rishi, and but because he did not respond to Parikshit's call, in the fit of anger, he garlanded the Rishi with a dead snake. And later, when the son of the Shamika Rishi came there and saw that his father was meted out with such kind of an insult of having garlanding him with a dead snake, he wanted to take revenge, and therefore he cursed Parikshit. And then when all this happening, when Shamika Rishi came to his senses and got to know that his son, the Shringi, Shamika Rishi's son Shringi, when the Rishi got to know his son has cursed the king of the planet, Parikshit, he was feeling sorry. So that's the verse, that's the context that we are discussing. So in this purport, as I was reading it some time ago, so I was just realizing that every line that Prabhupada writes in this purport, that it is an incidence from the Shastra. Every line. So we will see how it goes as we go. So the translation, he's saying that the devotees of the Lord, the bhaktas, are so forbearing. That means they are so patient. So they are so perseverant that even though they are defamed, tiraskrita, defamed, vipralabdaha, cheated, shaptaha, cursed, kshipta, disturbed, neglected, or hata, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. That means they are not so keen to take the revenge themselves. So now here, when we hear this, one may get a doubt that means the atrocities of the demons or the evil people should always be tolerated, is it? Or the pain could come from devotees, other devotees, demons, whatever it may be. So how should a devotee respond to distress or difficulties in his life? So that's the context that Prabhupada has given so many hints here. So let's discuss that. So the first of all, we have to, the first line Prabhupada writes that Shamika Rishi knew that Lord does not forgive a person for offending who has committed an offense at the feet of a devotee. So elsewhere Prabhupada explains that Lord can even tolerate the offense directed towards him, but not towards his devotees. That's what in Bhagavad Gita Krishna is assuring, Namhe bhaktya pranashyati, that my devotees will never perish. So that's the kind of a confidence that Lord Krishna is giving towards his devotees. And even if you see in the mainstream world, you come across so many instances where a rich man, a powerful man, a famous person, if he is meted with some kind of an insult, he can take it. But when his offspring, son or a daughter, is in difficulty, he will go out of his way to save him of the situation, right? I do not want to mention the incidents, but there are several incidents that are reported in the newspaper where the father is more keen to save his son or a daughter. So that is seen in the normal scenario itself, that the father is more loving towards his children than himself. So now what to speak of the Supreme Lord, wherein we are all offsprings, we are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. So how much more caring would he be towards his devotees? So therefore Prabhupada is writing that Lord will even take the offense towards him, but not towards his devotees. So there are hundreds of examples in the Shastras where you can see this particular thing. And one of the best example is Ambarish Maharaj. So if you have heard of that story, when Ambarish was fasting of the Ekadashi Vrata, and when next day when he was supposed to break the fast, by design, Durvasa Muni comes there, and then and the story is long, so I'm just cutting it short for the driving home this particular point, that he deliberately brings 10,000 disciples and goes to take bath and doesn't return. So now Ambarish is in dilemma, because there is a muhurta where he was supposed to break the fast, and that muhurta was getting over. On the other hand, the Atiti Devo Bhava, the principle is, when the guest has come, first you will have to feed the guest and then the host will take. So that's the general etiquette. So now Durvasa was deliberately delaying his return so that he wanted to test Parikshit. So now Parikshit was in dilemma. Then based on some direction of his senior people, Brahmanas, he managed to take little water, which is as good as continuing the fast as well as breaking the fast. If somebody is doing nirjala, when you take water, it is breaking the fast. But a person can also do fasting with water. So considering this dharma principle, he took little water because he didn't want to upset Durvasa also, because he was his guest. So, but then Durvasa wanted to take this opportunity to punish, to curse Ambarish Maharaj. So when he was about to place his curse, that's when the Lord's Sudarshana Chakra came to Ambarish Maharaj's rescue, and then the story is very popular that Sudarshana Chakra chases Durvasa Muni and he goes out of this world, 3 planetary systems, goes to Brahmaloka, goes to Kailasha, goes to Vaikuntha, where he meets Lord Narayana himself. But he said, once my Sudarshana is out, I can't help it. So you will have to face the consequence. So then when he was pleading out of his guilt and repentance, so then Narayana says, go and take shelter of the devotee whom you have offended. So then he comes back to the material world, Bhuloka, and falls at the feet of Ambarish Maharaj and begs pardon. So that's the time Ambarish Maharaj forgives, and Sudarshana will also calm down his anger against Durvasa. So this is a beautiful instance for us to remember that how Lord can even take the offense towards himself but not towards his devotees. So as devotees, as practicing devotees, sadhakas, we should feel that warmth and that protection of the Lord. So, and the next point that Prabhupada is talking about is, he thought within himself that if Maharaj Parikshit would counter curse the boy, he might be saved. So you see, this is the difference in understanding between a common person and a great man. Now in this case, what happened? The son cursed Parikshit to avenge the humiliation meted out to his father. So the father should have been happy. My son stood to my rescue. But rather, Shamika Rishi here is feeling he is the king of the planet. And ideally speaking, I should have responded to his query. When he is thirsty, everybody has to do his part to make sure that he is comfortable. So, for the kind of humiliation, simple thing that he has done, but the kind of retaliation that you have done, it is like making mountain of a mole. So, Shamika Rishi here was feeling very sad, and he also knew that Parikshit was such powerful king and a devotee that he could have counter-cursed the boy. So the boy, when the son of Shamika Rishi cursed Parikshit that he will die within 7 days being bitten by a serpent bird, so Parikshit could have counter-cursed the boy. But he didn't do that. Because, so there is a learning for all of us in our practicing of our devotional life from this incident. What is that? Not taking offense for others' actions. It's a very, very powerful and important thing for every practicing sadhaka. We generally talk in our devotional interactions and all that we should not offend other devotees. That we frequently hear. In fact, the first of the 10 offenses say that not to blaspheme the devotees who have engaged in the propagation of the glories of the Lord. Now, not making offenses, not offending someone is one aspect of it. The another aspect of it, which is equally important, which is not much talked about in the devotee community, is not taking offense. So in this case, the boy committed an offense towards Parikshit. But did Parikshit take that offense? He didn't take that offense. If he had taken that offense, he would have counter-cursed. He would have retaliated. He could have given back. But he didn't do that because he didn't take the offense. So not taking the offense is, if you analyze little bit, it is very closely connected to our expectation of ourselves in the heart. If we think, I am so great, and if we have that pride within us, I am so and so, I am having this kind of a position, I come from this kind of a family, so I have this kind of a power. So the more you have highlighted yourself within the heart, a little bit of inattention by anybody will get offended. How can he do this to me? How can he speak like this to me? So the problem is, see, we can't manage the rest of the world, but we can manage ourselves. Just like there was a person who went to a doctor and the doctor said, make sure to solve the problem of your eyes, make sure that whatever you see only green color. So the person said, if I do that, will my problem related to the eyes, will it be solved? The doctor said, yes. But make sure whatever you are seeing, see only green. So what he did, he painted all his house, all the walls green. And all the things and objects green. So all cutlery, everything green. And some guest comes, he will be poured green paint upon him so that he should not see anything other than green. So you can go on doing like this, but you will never be able to achieve the full objective of seeing everything green. So maybe even assume on a hypothetical thing you achieve also, but it is so foolish. All people around you are getting offended. The simple thing would be to wear a green glass. You could have seen the whole world green just by wearing a glass, little bit of intelligence. So similarly, now there are two ways that a devotee has to see when somebody is offending you, when something unpalatable, when something not so liked by you is being told by others, is being experienced by you because of others. We should learn how not to take offense. Just see the example of Parikshit. Here, Shringi did not just humiliate him. What has he done? He has cursed Parikshit to death. Who was Parikshit? He was the king of not India, the planet, the Bharata Varsha. He was the king of the planet and he is being cursed to death. And even after that, Parikshit's response to that situation was, this is the will of the Lord. So now, but when small thing happens to us, how can they do this to me? We get full frustrated, they will say, I have heard people saying, my whole day is screwed up. And probably for some days also they will, and that's how you see, these days, the depression word is so common. If you ask your father's age, some people, what is the meaning of, they say, what is the meaning of depression? We don't know. So, the point is how not to take offense is something that we have to practice. And we should understand that whenever we are getting offended, please remember that X, Y, Z could have done something to you, but that's not the cause of your feeling bad. That's because what is in your inside, what is inside us decides how much offended we get when people respond to us in some unpalatable situations. And that is why the Shastras give us a simple formula. We would have heard this verse 1000 times, but then the secret lies in implementing the depths of this verse. This is a whole lifetime project to understand and implement the practicality of this verse. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Trunadapi shuni chena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadaharihi. Now we all have heard this, but then how is it relevant to today's discussion? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, Trunadapi shuni chena, consider ourselves as a blade of grass. Now why is this blade of grass being quoted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? A blade of grass, it is just lying on the floor, nobody is noticing it, nobody is recognizing it, and people are continuously trampling over that. But will the grass resist, protest? No. Tarorapi sahishnuna, the tree example Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, because the tree, all its life, it is only serving the other people around them. It is giving flowers, fruits, shade, and even the wood. Even when it is being killed, it is only offering itself in service to the person which is harming him, who is harming him, the tree. So, even if you hit a stone against the tree, you will only get a flower or a fruit. So, it will not retaliate. So that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving these two examples of Trunadapi shuni chena tarorapi amanina manadena. So manadena is giving respect, not offending others. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also talking about amanina, not expecting respect. So that is what is connected to the point that we are discussing, that amanina means not taking offense, not expecting respect. When you are expecting respect, that you will be treated like this when you go there, and if it is matching the situation, you are so happy. Oh, they took care of me so nicely. Say, suppose that didn't happen for some reason or the other. Then we get offended, because that expectation of mana was deep within us. So now the progress is not to expect that respect, recognition. Amanina manadena. And only when we are able to follow this principle of amanina and manadena, then only we can kirtaniya sadahar. Then only we can chant the glories of the Lord. Without that, it is not possible. So, therefore, we have to practice very closely and very consciously of not getting offended. Not doing offense is definitely important, but not getting offended is equally important. So, and here Prabhupada says that so when Shamika Rishi got to know that his son has cursed Parikshit, And he also knew that Parikshit would not counter curse him because he is a devotee. Now the only thing left for him was to pray to the Lord for the immaturity of his son. So that is how we will also see that Advaita Acharya, when he felt that the situation was hopeless, he placed a petition for the descent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is the compassion of the great beings. So now, this verse, it starts by saying, Prabhupada says, devotees are never inclined to avenge themselves. That means devotees do not take revenge. The first part what we discussed was we don't take offense. So now when we don't take offense, naturally the subsequent thing is we don't want to avenge, take revenge, retaliate. And what are the examples? These examples are quite difficult to comprehend for a common people like us. But this is what Shastra is expecting of us. So the first one is Tiraskrita. The Shastras are telling Tiraskrita vipralabdha shapta kshipta hata api. Tiraskrita means being defamed, vipralabdha being cheated, shaptaha being cursed, kshipta being neglected or disturbed, hata or even killed. So in either of these actions, a devotee will not want to retaliate. So there are hundreds and thousands of examples in our Shastras, Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Mahabharata for all these. But due to paucity of time, I'll just mention probably one example in each. Tiraskrita, defamed. If you see the instance of Draupadi trying to be disrobed in the royal assembly of Kurus. So she was meted out with such great insult in the assembly of all great warriors. But still, the Pandavas went for a compromise later. They did not want to avenge themselves. And finally, the war was inevitable because Kauravas told that we will not even give you a land that can be held by the tip of a needle. Even that I will not give you. So that's when, for their duty, for their existence, since they were supposed to rule, so they had to go for a fight. Otherwise, they didn't try to take revenge. And Vipralabdha, cheated. Again in the same example, Pandavas, they were cheated in the dice game. But still, they took that very patiently. And when they were out in the forest and in that period of exile, they were being poisoned, offered a poisoned cake. They were, the house they were living was set on fire. So all this, but still they never wanted to retaliate that way. Shaptaha, cursed. This example what we are discussing is more apt. So Parikshit was cursed to death. Not just cursed for something, but still he didn't retaliate. Kshipta, disturbed by or negligence. Prahalad Maharaj's devotion was constantly being disturbed by his demoniac father Hiranyakashipu. But he didn't want to retaliate. Finally, when Hiranyakashipu was killed by Narsimha, and Narsimha asked, what do you want? He only asked for the benefit of his father. So that's a devotee. He never retaliated, even being, Prahlad was also trying to be killed. So, but still he didn't retaliate. And then, similarly, we can also hear the Lord Shiva being neglected by Daksha, his father-in-law, by not being invited for the Daksha Yagna. So still Lord Shiva didn't want to retaliate. Or Hataha, even killed. So you can also see the instance of Draupadi's sleeping sons were killed by Ashwathama. But later when Ashwathama was being captured, Draupadi asked Bhima and other Pandavas to set him free, not to kill him. Her own sons were killed while they were sleeping. Such a cowardice act by Ashwathama, but still Draupadi, although being a mother of those children who has lost her children, but still, see, all this, it has lot of depth. You can go into the depth. I'm just, due to paucity of time, I'm just noting the incident, because if somebody is being disrobed, if somebody's children are being killed, if somebody is being put to death, still these devotees are not wanting to retaliate. So now in our case, we say, no, I will not go to temple. Why? Because he told like that to me. I will not do this service because he did this to me. You see, there is a gulf of difference between what we are hearing and what we are currently today. So it happens in the devotees community because no two people are same in their thinking. So always there could be a chemistry mismatch. But we should not be disturbed in our goal, in our pursuit. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj always used to give an example, just like you are traveling in a boat from one side of the water body to another side. Now, in that short boat journey, there are some people who are mischievous, who are disturbing, who are not gelling well. For some reason, you are not getting along with them. So now you have two choices. One is to tolerate. The second is to jump off the boat. So because once you jump off the boat, then you will not have that disturbance. Now that is what we try to do in our devotional lives. When some disturbance is there, we go back. We feel that no, I should be comfortable, peaceful. Wherever it is little discomfort, we take back ourselves. We resign ourselves into our own worlds. So no, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj says, so this boat is the boat of devotional service that is taking you from this material world to that spiritual world towards the lotus feet of Krishna. So in the process, there could be fellow passengers who might also be devotees, who are also sadhakas, and their exhibition of activities, their nature might be disturbing to you, might be annoying to you. But you have to hold on to the boat of service and make sure that your destination of the lotus feet of Krishna is reached successfully. We should not jump off the boat because it is disturbance. Because once we jump off the boat, we are only going to drown and die. Anyway, you are not going to reach. So it's a common sense. So similarly, when devotees face this kind of reversals, we should take that as a blessings of the Lord and not give up on devotional service. So all these examples of Tiraskrita, Vipralabdha, Shapta, Kshipta and Hatha, all these examples are given because that's the path that we have to tread. Now we are talking of somebody speaking little harshly, we get fully shaken up. Forget about somebody trying to kill us. What will happen? So we are not even on that platform. So at least let us start cultivating this consciously so that we reach that point once in the future. So now Prabhupada brings up the next point. So now this is how a devotees have to behave when there is disrespect towards oneself. But then there is another angle to it. But when there is disrespect given to the Lord and other devotees, then you will have to respond or react depending on the situation. Now till now what we discussed is humiliation, disrespect pointed at ourselves. But when it is towards others specifically, the Shastra said the Lord and His devotees, the other fellow devotees, then your approach should be completely different. What is that approach? So, two examples, there are many, again hundreds of examples, I will just share two. First example is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's reaction when he heard that Nityananda Prabhu was being hurt by Jagai and Madhai. Nityananda Prabhu is Balaram, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. So when Nityananda Prabhu, out of his compassion, he went out and he wanted to liberate people like Jagai and Madhai so that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name is glorified. So that's how he reached out to the lowest class of people. And when Bhagavatam is explaining the Jagai and Madhai, Chaitanya Charitamrita is explaining, it is said that there is no sin that was not being performed by these two brothers. So you can imagine how sinful they were. So when Nityananda Prabhu wanted to benefit them and liberate them, so one of them hurt Nityananda Prabhu hitting him on his forehead through a stone. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard of this incident, that Nityananda Prabhu is being hurt, he invoked his Sudarshana Chakra. But later, with the prayers of the devotees and reminding him that in this avatara, he should not kill with Sudarshana Chakra, but through the more powerful weapon of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that was the weapon that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to use in this avatara. So then later, he did not do that, rather he wanted to go and reprimand them. So this is one incident. Second incident is Bhakta Hanuman. So Hanuman, when he heard that Mother Sita was being disrespected, what did he do? He flew to Lanka and burnt alive all those people of Lanka. Now actually there is one interesting incident that I came across in this connection. So now this example is again fitting into the context that we are discussing, that how when Lord and His devotees are being offended, that how we should be anger like fire. It need not be, you have to be patient towards humiliation towards you, not towards the Lord and His devotees. So now when Hanuman went to Lanka and burnt everybody alive, after he came back, there was one conversation that happened between Hanuman and Narada Muni. So Narada Muni says, Narada Muni is also a great devotee of the Lord. So, but he wanted to bring out some important message to the humankind. So he asked Hanuman, you see, you went ahead and burnt the whole Lanka alive. By performing this act, you have become an aggressor. Because Bhagavatam tells there are 6 kinds of aggressors. One who sets fire, one who kidnaps others' wife, one who administers poison, one who plunders others' riches. Like this, there are 6 things. If you do any of these 6 things, you are considered to be an aggressor. So now what has Hanuman done? He has set the Lanka on fire. So he is fitting into one of those 6 qualities of an aggressor. So then he says, so therefore Narada Muni says, so therefore you are an aggressor. Hanuman says, no, I am not. Narada Muni asks, can you please explain? So then Hanuman says, see, there is one Shastric principle that if any dead bodies are found in the society around us, it is the duty of a devotee to go and perform the last rites. Means he should not leave that dead bodies unclaimed. So then Narada said, what is my question and what is your answer? My question is, you are an aggressor because you killed the whole people in Lanka. You set them ablaze. And you are saying of the dharmic principle that all dead bodies should be performed antima samskara, last rites. How is both of them corrected? Hanuman said, wait, I am coming to the point. So he said, first principle is all the dead bodies should be performed last rites. So therefore, I went and killed them. Narada said, still I didn't understand. He said, there is another dharmic principle that one who does not chant the glories of the Lord is considered to be a dead body. So, when I went to Lanka, I found none of them chanting the Mahamantra, chanting the glories of Lord. So I found them to be dead bodies and I set them ablaze. So where is the aggression here? So you see how the devotee thinks. So this is the kind of a response when the offense is pointed towards the Lord or other devotees. So now coming back to the situation of how further can we improvise on when the offense is directed towards oneself. Now we are clear that we should not take the offense towards oneself. We should rather retaliate. In fact, the Shastras also say when your the Lord or the Guru is humiliated, you can either run away or try to convince or even retaliate and kill him. Because otherwise he will commit more offense. That's what Samika Rishi felt here. That if Parikshit would have counter-cursed his son would have been saved. Now his son has to go through the papa karma of having cursed a great devotee like Parikshit. So, but now of course coming to the practical scenario of this today's day and age, so we have to go little deeper into when offenses are directed towards oneself, how do we respond? So the Bhagavatam gives us a hint. Tattenu kampam susamiksha manaha bunjan evatma kritam vipakam. So the highlighting word here is evam kritam vipakam, evam kritam. So that means whenever we are in difficulty because of oneself or because of others, the Shastras say you can be in difficulty either because of adhyatmic klesha, because of our own body and mind, disease or mental problems, or the adi bhautik klesha, when others are meeting out difficulties on you. So now when others are pointing difficulties or challenges at us, that time a devotee's response, Bhagavatam is teaching, tattenu kampam susamikshaman. The first thing that we have to tell ourselves is it is kritam vipakam, it's my own doing. I am bound to it. And we are not psyching our mind. It is the perfect philosophical point. Nobody can do any favor to you, nobody can do any harm to you unless you deserve it. Unless we all have paid a price to what we are today. So we are born in a certain family, we are born with certain wealth, we are born with certain beauty, we are born with certain intelligence, certain education, certain strengths, certain frailties. All this, who has decided? There is a higher energy that is causing all these decisions, and that is based on our own activities in the past. So a devotee, whenever some difficulty is there, the first thing that he will do is first tell yourself. In fact, the more you practice this, the lesser the pain. But it will take few months, years or few lifetimes also to practice this. Because immediate our natural response to any difficulty is that we say that he is the cause for my difficulty. He or she is the cause of my pain. But Bhagavatam is telling, first tell yourself that your own doings are the cause of this. And another beautiful example is when the personality of religion, the bull was being tortured by the Kali Purusha. So, and when King Parikshit questioned the bull, who is the cause for your suffering? It did not point towards Kali Purusha. So, and in that purport, Prabhupada says, it is also equally sinful to identify the perpetrator of the sin. Perpetrator referring to meaning performer. So that means if you are saying that he is the one who is the cause of my suffering, that is also sinful. See what level of understanding Bhagavatam is trying to impart on us. It is highlighting, it is elevating our consciousness from what we see in the mainstream world. So that is why the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, these are the scriptures for one's own holistic being. It is not that only, even if somebody wants to lead a comfortable life, so he has to read Bhagavatam. How many problems in our lives, how many instances, situations we could have been saved if we had applied this principle. Now, you may question, so Prabhu, what are you saying? Does it not mean that when others are inflicting pain and you think that I am only the cause of my pain and do not try to do that, so then will he not do more? So the answer is, if he decides to do more, he cannot do more. That's the understanding of the Shastra. Whatever we deserve only will be served to us. Whatever you order will be served to us. Nothing more, nothing less. So we are now discussing this point of personal humiliation, personal insult, when we are being targeted by somebody. So how we should take, the first thing that we have to tell is, I am the cause of my suffering. Now after that, as a matter of duty, if we have to discuss, if we have to escalate, if there is a chain of command, if there is an escalation matrix, all that can be done later. But first of all, we have to save our own mind. And 99 out of 100 instances, we make mountain of a mole. He told something, some other thing was the intention, but we got it wrong. And we created a whole lot of stuff around it. So the practicing principle, the tip here is, we have to consider our own doing, and that's what Parikshit did in this case. If otherwise, you imagine somebody is cursing you to death, Unless Parikshit has followed this principle of Tattenu Kampam Sumsem, how can he take it as a will of the providence? He could have killed him right away. That boy is of no match to Parikshit's strength and valor. But he didn't do that. That is because he didn't take the offense. Because he knew that this is what is being pointed towards me. So, similarly, Prabhupada also gives example in one more place that just like, and instead what we should do, the translation of this verse, Tattenu Kampam, it says, we should not only take offense, but we have to patiently suffer the reactions of our past misdeeds. Means we should be patient, and for that Prabhupada gives example, just like a son, he has to only be obedient to the father and be patient. After his father's time, he will eventually inherit the wealth of his father, provided he is loyal, provided he is obedient and he is patient. There is no big science about it. So similarly, Prabhupada says that devotees, we have to be patient in our devotional service. We have to pursue the path of devotion, bhakti, with patience, and when we are following principles of bhakti, 4 regulative principles, chanting, then we know that Krishna will protect us. Just like you can hear of one example that I came across by Arthur Ashe. He was a famous Wimbledon legendary player. So when he was infected with a deadly disease like AIDS, millions of his followers were deep in tears. So they were all completely mourning for the disease of their legendary player he was. So he was his role model in the sport, and they were feeling very sad. So one of them wrote a letter to Arthur Ashe, and he said, "Why has the Lord chosen you for this dangerous, deadly disease? Why not somebody else?" So this player, he replies to that letter as follows. So the letter, it said, "Why did God have to select you for such a bad disease?" So for that, Arthur Ashe replied, 50 million children started playing tennis. 50 million means 5 crore. 5 crore people started playing tennis, out of which 5 million, that is 50 lakh of them learned to play tennis. Although 5 crore people started playing, but 50 lakh people actually learned. Out of 50 lakh people who learned tennis, 5 lakh people learned professional tennis. They went few notches further above. So 5 lakh people learned how to play professional tennis, out of which 50,000 came to the circuit, out of which 5,000 reached Grand Slam, out of which 50 reached Wimbledon, out of which 4 reached the semi-finals, out of which 2 reached the final. And when I was holding the cup in my hand, I never asked God, why me? And now when I am in pain, why should I ask God, why me? So you see how even people without the knowledge of Shastras, Bhagavata, practicing devotion, they are able to exemplify this kind of a character, this kind of a behavior. So it is common sense. Such a nice striking example he has given. So when he was one out of those 5 crore people who started playing tennis, he didn't question God, why? And now when I am in difficulty, why me? Why should I ask? Why me? So it's such a striking thing. So therefore, we have to take that in stride, and it is generally observed that to the greater extent that you realize that this is all my own doing, to that extent we will not feel the pain of that suffering. In whatever instance you try it out. Because the moment you say I am the cause of it, most of the percentage of the problem will get solved. And you will not commit further offenses, because when you take offense, You want to avenge that by committing offense. So now when you don't take offense, where is the question of committing offense? Isn't it? So that is how a devotee has to consider. And Prabhupada writes in one more place, just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the supreme pure Lord Krishna without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but in fact it is a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. So in other words, Prabhupada is writing this very important line in this context of our discussion, that whenever we are facing difficulty, the first thing that we are doing is tell that I am the cause of this pain. And second point you have to remember is, I am the cause of this pain and I have been given this as a purificatory process. Prabhupada is telling it's a curative treatment. So just like, and he is giving an example, just like sun, it's a ball of fire. So only fire can go near sun. Anything else apart from fire will get burnt to ashes. So similarly, if we have to approach Krishna, the supreme fire, the supreme pure, we have to become pure. Now when we have to become pure, we have to be reduced in our impurities. Now how do we get reduced in our impurities? We have to experience the papa karma, the results of our papa karma in the past. So rather than feeling bad about our situation, another way of looking at our suffering is to say, oh, this much suffering is going away from me. So that means I am going closer towards Krishna. See, it's a perception of what outside people call it as half glass full or half glass empty. So it's up to us, how do we see that? It's in our way of life. So when you see the half glass full, when you see that this suffering is only reducing my burden of papa on my head and I am able to go forward in my devotional service to Krishna, so then you will be able to take that in stride. And one beautiful example that we get to hear, it's a parable that I heard somewhere on the internet, but then it is very, very relevant to the context that we are discussing, the parable of a pot. If you have seen that how pots are made by a potter, so for the sake of discussion, let's personify the pot. Okay, so the pot is nothing but a mound of clay, right? So what is a mound of clay? It is just lying on the ground. Anybody is stamping, going, all that. So now assume, let's personify for the sake of discussion. A person comes and says that, oh, you mound of clay, I want to make you a beautiful pot. Will you be interested? And the pot says, the mound of clay says, yes, I am interested. So then the person takes that mound of clay. Of course, the process is very detailed. So due to paucity of time, I am just giving you the principle. So now what he does, he picks up that mound of clay which is lying on the ground, nobody recognizing, everybody stamping. Now this person, because the mound of clay agreed to transform itself into a pot. So the person took that and he started stamping on that heavily, mixed with little bit of water and started stamping on that. And when he was stamping on it heavily, that mound of clay started feeling heavy pain. It started saying that, should I still continue? So, but then it had a little desire that, that person, potter, has promised me to transform me into a beautiful pot. So I should continue. So then he took that, and once that beating process was completed, then he placed that on a wheel which was being spinned at a high frequency, so high speed. So now at that time, the mound of clay almost lost its sense of orientation because of being spinned at such high velocity. So at this time it said, should I still, because I was somewhere peaceful there as a mound of clay, but because that person said, potter said, I will transform you into a pot, I agreed, but then I could somehow manage that tribulation of being beaten. But this spinning on the wheel, my God. So maybe I think I should quit. So the thoughts of quitting started coming up, surfacing up in the mind of that mound of clay. So and after that, that person removed that and poked his fingers heavily using a rod, and then he sprayed heavy fumes into that. So that pungent thing, that mound of clay could not, tolerate. It started mildly saying, I quit, I quit, I quit. It would not tolerate further. So, but then the person kept on encouraging, continue, continue, give me some more time, I'll make you a beautiful pot, I'll make you a beautiful pot. So finally he places that into an oven where the temperatures was such soaring high that it felt that I'm going to be burnt alive. So I'm not going to come out alive from this. So at that time it started screaming loudly, enough is enough. Take me out, I do not want to be a pot, let me be a mound of clay. I do not want anything else. But the person was not ready, potter was not ready to give up. So he continued the process, and then further 2 or 3 more things to cut the long story short. So finally, when he painted, again that fumes of the paint could not make it live comfortable. So and finally when the potter showed a mirror to what it has become after it has been given the shape, after it has been painted, all that mound of clay could not believe its eyes. It was a mound of clay, and today it has become a beautiful pot. So now the question here is, had the mound of clay resigned to its fate at any point of this process, would it have become transformed into a beautiful pot? Yes or no? So same thing is with us. We in the process of devotional service are nothing more important than a mound of clay. So our great-grandfather came and went, our grandfather came and went, so our other generations came and went. When they were living, they were all feeling whole world is resting on my shoulders. Everybody is recognizing me, I am so popular. Now after few generations, nobody doesn't. How many of us remember the name of our great-grandfather? One. Okay. Great-grandfather's grandfather? Great-grandfather's grandfather? Okay, so one exception is there. Okay, 10 generations before? 100 generations before? No. Okay. So the point is, we all feel when we are in our youth that everything else we are doing, but then everything else is I'm so important, but eventually we would be forgotten. Nobody else will remember us. So when we are like that, a potter in the form of Srila Prabhupada came to our rescue, and he has put us in the process of transformation from the mound of clay to a beautiful pot. So now in this process, our contribution is not to quit the process. We may be facing the fumes, we may be losing our orientation, we may be being beaten. So, but we should be confident that we are in the hands of a beautiful potter like Srila Prabhupada, a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, who is going to give us the beautiful form of a pot or a devotee to serve their lordships, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Chandra. So therefore we will have to always be grateful to the Guru and continue the process of bhakti irrespective of whatever difficulties, whatever inconveniences we have. Anybody would like to ask any questions? Yeah. Yes, that much may be done, but again how we do that is depends. What is the internal mood? That depends. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,